Part 1. The Nature of Historical Trauma. Part 1 offers an opportunity to explore the nature and impact of childhood harm on your development. The entire program has been designed to build in a progressive manner. Learning about trauma, making connections, and building insight comes first, and in many ways, this is what Part 1 is about. The connections you make may feel exciting and provide hope. However, feeling upset, angry, or low in mood are common reactions to this information. As you work with the material in Part 1, we will remind you to see your problems and how you have coped psychologically rather than through the lens of punitive self-blame. Group Session 1. Beginning to let others know who you are. Quote, I'm into banger racing. I think it helps me get some of the anger out. I'm small and quiet, so people usually don't believe me when I tell them that on Sundays I'm driving around a dirt track, smashing into other cars. End quote. Mary. Group Session 1 represents an opportunity for you to begin to get to know the other members, and, of course, for you to begin letting others know who you are. We take a particular perspective concerning the first session. Safety and going at a pace which is manageable is an important focus throughout the entire program. You will have opportunities during the rest of the program to explore and describe your past history in some depth or detail, but we think it's helpful to begin slowly and with some carefulness. It will take time to develop trust in the facilitators and the other group members. With this in mind, we suggest that you begin by letting others know who you are apart from your abuse history. However, it's also important that we don't ignore the issue of past abuse or neglect. So, for those who wish, in the first session, you will also have an opportunity to begin to tell the group about your difficulties and or past history. We know that most people who experienced childhood abuse and neglect struggle with social anxiety. If what we are proposing elicits anxiety, keep in mind that you will spend most of your time listening to others rather than being in the spotlight. Exercise 1. Your name, roles, and interests. In Session 1, we give opportunities an opportunity to tell us about their first name, to explain the roles they fulfill, and to describe any interests which are important. Below, you can reflect on what you want to tell us. Please pause the audio and do some work with the questions you will find in the guidebook. Saying something about your psychological problems or childhood experiences. When group members have had a chance to get to know each other a bit, you will have an opportunity to say something about your psychological problems and the nature of your childhood experiences. We want to emphasize that you do not have to talk about these issues in Session 1 if you need more time. Some group approaches for trauma histories suggest the first session is too early to begin talking about what your problems are or what happened to you. However, if you can say something about your problems or past, this can be helpful. Many have spent years avoiding talking about past harm, and perhaps for good reasons. We don't want to reinforce a message that you need to avoid it here. You may wonder, just how should you go about discussing distressing problems or past experiences? There is no simple rule about this which applies to everyone, but there are a couple of guidelines which can help. Going gradually and carefully about what you reveal to yourself and to others can be useful. Also, providing graphic details about past experiences in a group context can be unhelpful and unnecessary. It may leave you feeling more vulnerable or trigger others. There is a balance to try and get. It's important to allow yourself to remember and describe the past, but useful to do it in a way which is relatively safe for you and others. It's impossible to get the balance exactly right, and it will involve some trial and error. It's all part of the challenge. In the first session, you may feel able to say something about the nature of the psychological or emotional problems you experience, such as discussing issues with anxiety, mood, sleep, PTSD, relationships, or self concept, etc. If you wish, you can give some information about what occurred in childhood, but we suggest going slowly in how much you reveal or how much detail you give. There will be time to say more as the group progresses and your trust in those you are working with develops. Exercise 2. What might you wish to say about your experience of psychological or emotional difficulties? Is there something about your childhood you want to tell the group at this point in time? Please pause the audio and do some journaling with Exercise 2 in the guidebook.